Hi, welcome to Unqualified. I am Emily Marks, your host, and this is my wonderful friend slash fellow piano worship leader situation, Lydia, Lydia Deckert. And I met you when I first moved here, 13, 14 years ago. Yeah. And that was another conversation with Ellen. It was like, how long have I actually been here? So, Lydia, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I grew up in the North Shore, grew up in the church that Emily then started coming to, which is how we met. I was a youth leader for a while. I was her youth leader. She was awesome. I'm a teacher now for preschool. I've taught math. I've done interior design.
Done it all.
I keep floating back and forth, trying to figure out what I want to be when I grow up.
I love that. That makes me feel so good.
Yes, you've got time. Married, I have 2 little kids. They're
Freakishly
great.
adorable.
They're so cute.
so cute.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk about our topic of the day. We've both had this topic on the brain since we were like children.
Yeah.
And struggled with it and wrestled with it. And
yes.
100%. Now understand it completely. Lots of wisdom to share.
Yes. We are the professionals that everyone is called and like, hey, can you talk about that?
Yeah.
But well, it's also really cool too because so just as like a little, I don't know, prefaces or I don't know, as a little thing to go into it, we both play piano at church and we both like are very musically inclined, and I feel like I've known you for a long time, but I feel like lately I've gotten to really come close to you, and so that's been really awesome. And so with this like topic in mind, I was planning now this was months ago when I actually wanted to start like talking about this because I was like, it's a very big thing and it's a very like, buzzword, like kind of stuff, and there's a lot of baggage along with it. But then I was thinking, I think it's also really important to talk about. And then you were the person that popped into my mind when wanting to talk about it. So, but I also think like from our conversation before about talking about what we want to talk about.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've said so many words so many times in that sentence. We like had a lot of different like thoughts and like. Yeah, so I'm really excited about it. So, I mean, from the episode title, you guys know what we're talking about. But feminism is the topic, specifically biblical feminism. So just kind of going right into it, what comes to your mind when thinking of the word feminism?
I think it's a loaded word, and I think it's a word that has been kind of co-opted by different groups to mean what they mean it to mean.
Yeah.
And so people probably have a strong opinion either way.
Yeah,
about
that's
it.
so true. That's so true.
How I've thought about it recently, and since I've started thinking about it, that feminism at its core is just that men deserve the same rights as men and we're equal. Doesn't mean that we're better than men. It doesn't mean that since men have been dominant for thousands of years that now it's our turn to like beat them down.
Right.
It means that like, okay, we figured it out. It took us a minute, but let's just level the playing field and and I think that's what God intended, which is what we'll get into. That
100%, yeah.
Men and women are equal. So
absolutely, and it's interesting how, like you mentioned, like no matter what one's opinion on it is, it's a big opinion. Like I think it's crazy because, like, with the world, feminism is one thing, but within the church, feminism is another thing.
Yeah.
And sometimes the church can view feminism as like bad, like that's bad, and like. But the older I've gotten, and the more I've grown as a woman in ministry or in certain areas, I'm like wondering, like, I wonder why the church views it like as so bad. But I mean, for lack of better words, bad. But I also really appreciate your point too, like prefacing it's like, no, women aren't better than men, but men are better than women.
Yeah.
And so it's just like very, we are both made in the image of God. Like going back to Genesis 1, it's like what God literally originally intended.
Yeah.
But I really liked your point too on the phone when you were saying like women were taken from the side. Do you want to like talk about that a little bit?
Sure. Yeah. Well, in things I've read in the past, but then since talking about this podcast episode months ago, things have just been popping up on my algorithm because the Holy Spirit knows we're going to talk about this, I guess.
No, literally. I love those things.
But one of the things was about how first of all, Adam means humanity. So like, yes, God made Adam the person, but God made humanity in his image. So it's not like he made man in his image and then like woman is in the image of man. Both are in God's image.
Absolutely.
And then in English translations, it's often like a rib from Adam or like from Adam's side. So we're like, all right, like a piece of him, like a part of him, or like less than, like no, like a full side of him, like a half of him. He would not be whole without woman. And even when God is doing all of creation, he looks at everything. It's like, this is good. And then he makes man. It's like, this isn't right. This isn't good yet.
Yeah.
We need someone else. Then he makes woman. And then he says, now this is very good. And man and woman together are like the pinnacle
really
of God's
cool.
creation.
That's really cool to think about.
Yeah.
It's so interesting how God like made something. He was like, no. And like, and then he like created the thing that was completion. Like, that's really interesting. Wow.
Yeah, completion is a good way to put it.
Yeah.
And I think with that, I stumbled upon another English or Hebrew word, I think from you actually.
Oh, yes. Yeah,
Ezer or Ezer.
I think, yeah.
Which means helper. And I think either people don't know that word or they just know it and they're like, oh, like you're somebody's helper, like they're a little assistant or
it's like
whatever.
Carry on a checklist. Like,
You're my secretary. But helper, that word specifically in Hebrew means like equal helper or even like rescuer or come to the aid of.
Yeah.
And it's used twice for women.
Yeah.
And like once like in Genesis to refer to Eve. It's used like once for Israel, once in another context, and then like the other 16 times it's in reference to Yahweh. Like, okay, so if the same word is used for a woman's role as like what God does for his people, like that gives us a fairly good standing.
Yeah.
That should not be minimized to just a like assistant or secondary role in creation.
That like makes me think of a bunch of different things, like one of them being like how much helper has turned into a word that's insulting to women, and then like also how much helper has been turned into a word that men could use degrading to women, or if women think of themselves in a degrading way at all because of it, or like whatever the context is like so far from what the actual word is. Like, because we reach out to God all the time, and it's I think part of this is where my brain's going. I think part of me personally sometimes feels like helper is a hard word to wrap my mind around, because it means that it means that my worth has to do with somebody else.
What you can do for somebody else.
Yeah. And I think a lot of women sometimes feel that way, especially because like I've never been a mom, but you have been a mom for a long time now. And so like, how do you feel like with your personal experience on that word versus like what we're learning about it
now?
That's a
good question. Well, because helper is like you have to be selfless, or you spend a lot of time just helping other people and existing for other people, which can be good and noble. But I think when that becomes all you are, or you aren't also filling yourself up, or when other people take it for granted and they're like, oh yeah, you will take care of all of those things. And if I do that, or if I do something for you, then I'm like helping you out.
Right.
You're like, oh.
You're like, oh.
I shouldn't actually just be burdened with all of this. And I think that's just probably been the case for women across the board, but especially for mothers to be almost like martyrs. Like, you don't get like free time or like time to do things for yourself. Like you're here for your children, and I think
and that is it.
That's all. That's your purpose. That's your identity now. Like, yes, and but not everything.
Yeah, exactly.
But then you feel guilty when you do take time for yourself. And you're like, like I'm a bad mom, or like I'm selfish. And I think part of that is maybe just a skewed understanding of helper.
Kind of like how we sometimes feel about like it being a burden to help other people or something like that. But it's a crazy, like, I don't know if paradox is the right word, but that's what I'm going to use. So it's a crazy paradox of like, it's a burden, but it's also like so emphasized within like the Bible of like, we're all for each other. Like, because God is our helper. Like, it's like the Great Commission of like, calling others to know God, like letting other people know God. But part of that is being loving to them, being helpful to them, being so that they can trust you and trust that. You know what I mean? And so it's weird that how much the world has warped that in us, in being that good quality, but also I was just thinking warped in us, but also that quality is in and of itself has been warped because people take it for granted or because people do. And so I don't know. Yeah.
Well, it's hard because being a helper is very fulfilling at the same time. And I think it's meant to be, we're all meant to do that, made in the image of God, and to be helpers and to love one another.
Absolutely.
But since humanity is sinful,
Yeah.
Everything, God's intended purpose for us is
Yeah.
just, like you said, warped and has fallen apart. And you can get a lot of joy out of helping other people and raising children and seeing who they turn into, and
100%. And it's cool too, kind of going back to the Genesis, um, you know, perspective of it. When God made man in his image, and he's like, that's not good, and then he made woman from that. Kind of it's interesting how much we are we were just saying helping each other, but made for each other. And so it's just yes, woman was made from man, for him, but it's also half of that was taken out of the man, so man's also made for woman. Does that make sense? I don't know, there's this passage that it's actually cool, when you were talking about how where's my zipper when you were talking about things were popping up on your feed and this topic. Let me find my place here. I was in a Bible study on Corinthians, and that has a bunch of stuff about all of this stuff. And there was a lot of great conversation. Okay, so I don't know how to get into this because there's so much, but in First Corinthians 11, it talks about Paul talking to the Corinthian church. Are they called they're the Corinthians?
Yes.
But it's Corinth.
Corinth.
That's what it is. Okay, I was Corinthia. It's Corinth. Yeah, close, but half. Yeah. So I mean, is it cool if I just read all of this 2 through, let's see, 16ish?
Yeah.
Well, we'll stop at a time. Okay, so this is Paul talking. I commend you because you remember me in everything and maintain the traditions just as I handed them on to you. But I want to understand that Christ is the head of every man, and the husband is the head of his wife, and God is the head of Christ. Any man who prays or prophesies with someone on his head disgraces his head, with something on his head disgraces his head. But any woman who prays or prophesies with her head unveiled disgraces her head. It is one of in the same thing as having her head shaved. So I'm going to pause right there. Right then and there, I have so many emotions come up on me and be like,
I don't have to wear a hat. I mean, I am right now, but I don't have to.
But I don't have to. And so, there's so much more in this passage too. But just to pause right there, the conversation then exploded, and it was really cool because we were talking about what it means to be ahead of somebody, not the head of, not ahead of the I just heard how that sounded out loud. But one of the things that was pointed out as the head could be authority over, that's how a lot of people take it, I think, but a lot of it was physical head. Now with the head covering for the women, I'm going to jump around a lot. That's fine. But with the head covering for the women, Paul was talking to, then at that time, there was a lot of prostitutes that had their hair down, and so the head covering was more of just put your hair up and don't present yourself as prostitutes, because we want you to be a part of this church and actively in it. And so he was calling more women to the church, which I thought was really cool. And it's
neat.
Not what it's taken as, but digging deeper into it, Paul is very much an advocate for this kind of stuff. And so the Christ is the head of every man, and the husband is the head of his wife. Then you go into Ephesians, the husband dies for his wife just as Christ died for the church. And so I feel that bleeds into each other a bit.
Right.
I'm going to jump down a little bit in the passage. In verse 8, indeed, man was not made from woman, but woman from man. Neither was man created for the sake of woman, but woman for the sake of man. For this reason, a woman ought to have a symbol of authority on her head because of the angels. Nevertheless, in the Lord, woman is not independent from man or man independent from woman. Just as woman came from man, so man comes through woman. But all these things come from God. And judge for yourselves, is it proper for a woman to pray to God with her head unveiled? For does not nature itself teach you that if a man wears long hair, it is degrading to him, but if a woman has long hair, it is her glory, for her hair is given to her as a covering. And then, but if anyone is disposed to be contentious, we have no such custom, nor do the churches of God. So there's a lot there that's like off topic a little bit, but a lot on topic, like going to the part where it says, judge for yourselves, is it proper for a woman to pray to God with her head unveiled? He's like saying, like, why would he ask the question if it wasn't proper for her to pray at all? And so like a lot of people take that out of context and be like, oh, women should, if the man is the head of this, then the woman should blah blah blah. But it's just like, no, like he's just saying, like, putting your hair up and that kind of stuff, that's how they should pray and that kind of stuff. So there's like, again, I'm not qualified to talk about these things because I am still learning, but I think we all are to some extent.
Yeah. I mean, this is one of those passages like I still don't really know what to do with everything there, but I think this one and then other ones that I read growing up, like women submit to your husband's, like gut reaction was like, I don't like that. I don't want to do that.
Yes.
And I struggled with it because I was like, I don't know, like, well, you can't like not like something in the Bible, but that was my mindset at 12. I was like, you have to just like accept everything, and I don't. So I don't know what this is about me, but I still don't like it.
Right. It's a good question.
I think I've come to the understanding it's not wrong to like struggle with things if it then causes you to go deeper or to think more or to pray about it. For specifically like the verse about submitting, I think I often heard the first part left off, which is husbands and wives submit to one another.
Yeah.
And then it goes into like women respect your husbands, husband love your wives, women submit to your husbands, and all of that. Paraphrase. Yeah. And so when you get other scriptures like this, you're like, I don't really know what to do with that. Right. But since these other passages exist, and because of Genesis 1, and you know what God intended for men and women and husbands and wives to love each other and to submit to one another and to respect one another.
Absolutely.
I think that has helped, at least like at the base. I'm like, I don't get all of the things and like head coverings and some of that. You're like, some of that was historical because, like you said about the prostitutes having like long hair. And you're like, okay, well, that was like a thing at the time. But I think I struggled with it because I was like, I don't like it, and I don't know if that's because it's not sitting right with me because it's wrong or it's being presented incorrectly or not with all the facts, or is it just pride that I don't like this thing and I don't want it to be true because it rubs me the wrong way and I need to work on that. So I think gone through years of like trying to unpack and trying to like, all right, like let's actually humble ourselves and like try and see what the Bible says. But I think I have more or less come to the conclusion like, no, because of the other things in scripture, like it is a mutual submission. And even in I think it's in Ephesians, where it talks about, husbands are as Christ is to the church. Like, okay, so Christ laid down his life for the church.
Yes.
And he sacrificed himself. So that's the way that husbands should be loving their wives. And that's a pretty high calling. Like, that's hardcore.
And it's also interesting because it's not talked about that much. Like, the submission part's talked about a lot, which is like, to my core, bugs me in certain ways. Because when it's talked about, a lot of times it's talked about in a different context than what we're talking about it right now. But it's crazy how much the like husbands love your wives, Jesus Christ loved the church, isn't talked about as much. It's almost like that one can't really be taken out of context that much. It's hard to spin that a certain way. Like it's easy to spin like, wives submit to your husbands, your servants. This is what but it's not easy to be like, husband. And then in another vein of that, it kind of opens my eyes up to like, is a huge calling. Like, I don't think about that much. Maybe because it's not talked about that much, but maybe because I'm so focused on the submission situation over here.
What's my job?
Yeah, exactly. And it's like so crazy to think about. It's like, no. Whenever, like, if ever I get married one day, like, my husband's gonna love me like Christ died for the church. I was like, that's kind of crazy. But that's crazy to think about. Like, that's huge. And
Yeah.
so, like, how? There's
Yes.
before I ask my next question, one thing I really appreciate about what you said is like, looking at scripture and being like, I don't like that, because I don't think a lot of people allow for that space to ask questions and allow for the space to like, like in our situation now versus what their situation was. It's crazy to like, just back up and be like, let me dig deeper into this. And I think a huge thing, and another one of my friends on the podcast a couple of episodes ago, he was saying, it's important to wrestle with God and with scripture, and like that's not looked at in a good vein or a good light or whatever. Like it's like, oh, just do everything that God says because like you should, because it's for your good. But like I don't know.
Well, you see people in scriptures like wrestle with God. I mean, like Jacob, literally like wrestling, or even people like Abraham when God said He's going to destroy this town, and Abraham's like, well, what if like there were 100 good people? And I was like, okay. But I still wanted to. I was like, okay, but what if there's like 50? But he like keeps like pushing back, and you're reading this, and you're like, so you're talking to God right now? Like, are you like you're really confident and like continue? But he like keeps pushing back.
Ooh, I love that.
Yeah, and there's other scenarios like that. Like, and it's not in a disrespectful like I know better, but it's just a like because they had, I can only imagine like that kind of relationship that he was like, we're gonna have a little bit of a back and forth, and
that's a really good point. Like, I love because like that when you said confident, I was like, ooh, because like we're not confident, like in our because like that's the same God that we're talking to, and God is like the veil, and that was before Jesus died for us, and like the whole like I forgot the curtain to the Holy of Holies was torn so that we could just talk directly to Jesus, or to God, but like I think that's so interesting because we don't boldly approach like they did on a regular basis, and it's like we're surrounded by like so many different things, and it's the same world but it's a different place at the same time. Now the question that I was going to ask you before, okay. So within marriage, because like I'm only viewing it from a future perspective, to the, you know what I mean, like it's not happened to me yet. But how has your perspective changed from when before you were married to now that you're married?
Well, I think I just straight up had always really disliked that verse in the Bible. It was like, submit to your husbands. Like, not doing it. I don't care. But when I was starting to be interested in my now husband, I was like, I still don't really like that verse, and I'm not quite sure what it's talking about. But if I were to submit to anybody, like, I could see myself doing that with him. And I was like, that seems like a good sign, because I've never thought that about anybody else I've ever been interested in. It's funny because I thought I had like made progress in my opinions about like feminism and how women are in the Bible and how we are. But my husband has also been good about encouraging that or challenging that with like things around the house. I'm like, oh, like I haven't been doing enough like cooking or cleaning or whatever. You're like are we in the 1950s? He's like, I do that too. Like, we should both be doing that. Like, we both share these roles. And you're like,
so
okay, yeah. Because we were both working. We were both coming home. And so it's like, yeah, like we do this together.
Like,
100%. I like that. Yes, that's true. That's good. And I think also, I mean, part of it is just because he was great. But I think one thing that I've heard a lot and people have asked me about is like, well, what if you come to a decision that like you're at a stalemate, you can't make the decision, like the husband has to make the decision, right? I'm like, I don't know. And it just hasn't happened to us. Like we've either been able to figure it out or we've prayed about it, and one of us has gotten a clearer sense. Though I was talking to my dad about it once, and I liked what he said. He was like, yeah, like I do believe that, if you're at a stalemate, the husband should make the final call. And I was getting all ready to be like, what are you? And he was like, and he should do what the wife wants. And I was like, oh, I really like that. I like that. So I told so many people, I was like, this is what he said.
Works. I love that.
But I think that's the perfect example of like Christ laying himself down and like, I love you so much that like, yes, we'll do it this way. And it's not demand being like a pushover or whatever. It's you love the other person and you trust their judgment because you're equal partners in this.
Yes.
It's not like, well, I'm the man, so I'm logical, so I can make decisions better. You're like, nah, we've seen that not to be the case across all of history.
I can think of so many options off the top of my head.
So I think, marriage has just kind of helped encourage equal and with different gifts. Like we bring, like I definitely thought that I was going to do the finances in our marriage because my mom handled that in my parents' marriage, and then he just kind of fell into it. And was like, "You're really good at this, and you can continue to do this." And I was a math teacher, so I could. But you're really good at this role. And he does our taxes by himself. We tried to do them together for a couple of years, and it was not. That was not a good moment for marriage. So we're like, you know what? That's your skill. You're gonna do that. And there's other things that I'm better at. And like, I'll do this because I am better at it. And you would do these other things because you're better at those.
It's like, but then that's just like common sense when you think about it. Because like I love that example of like the husband like doing what the wife wants, but that also like reminds me of like this is in the context of like you're marrying a godly man. Like it's not like you both are in this situation and like you are like in against each other and stuff like that. Like you both want each other's best interest in mind. And so that's just like it makes sense like how it works together. So because my mind can get all feministy or my mind can get all like certain things in the sense of like vengefulness.
Been there.
But when I like, look at the bigger picture, it's just like, okay, I have a role and it's a godly calling, like, not just within marriage, but like outside of it too, because there's so many people who are single and like have to deal with this kind of stuff too. But when I look at the bigger picture and think about like, okay, so he has a role too, and all of us go back to God. Like both of us go back to God is what I mean. But that's another thing too. Like there's so many like views, especially in the Bible, on women in marriage. But like, what do you think about women who are single, like dealing with feminism or dealing with like, the world and like?
I know. I'm just like anybody. They have a role and they're called to love other people around them, and other people around them are called to love them. I mean, like as far as submitting to husbands or whatever, like they wouldn't have that exact relationship with somebody else. Like there wouldn't be like a random man like, all right, like him. Like no, like they haven't they haven't entered into that covenant or God hasn't chosen that for them or whatever the case may be. Like anybody being a part of God's body and his people, like you have a role that you serve, and there's a lot of single women that I know that have either like kind of adopted a family or like just other people in the church or in their lives that since they don't have a family of their own, like they can kind of go above and beyond and have supported families like really needed it or like would have been in a rough way if they didn't have like an extra person come in and be like, yes, I will watch the kids, and like you can both stay with your baby in the NICU and I'll stay with the rest of your older kids, or like I'll come make you meals, or like I'll clean your house, or like drive you to doctor's appointments, like all these things that, or just like being a part of the workforce and serving people in those capacities. So
that's very true too. I think a lot of times it's interesting because I don't ever think of like work as, sounds weird when I say it out loud, but I don't ever think of work, or I don't always think of work as serving, but that's exactly what it is. Like, and I think I don't think of it as serving as like, oh, you're getting paid to do something. But it's just like, well, but if you're choosing work that's like glorifying to God, like that's like God wants us to like work at the things we're gifted at and like do these things or like multiply. I know he wants us to be smart with things too and like money and stuff, but that it's just interesting in the context of like, women in work and like kind of going back to like the wives and the husbands and stuff like that. There's a lot of opinions of like wives can't work, and I hate that because I don't believe it. But I'm jumping around a little bit, a lot of it. I jump around all the time.
Welcome to my brain.
But like kind of going, into that topic, I guess, with, wives working. I think it's interesting how much that a lot of times, I don't think our church has, but I have been in some other church groups where they are very stuck in wives do not work, and you're like,
good luck living here if you don't work.
Literally, yes, because like Massachusetts is really expensive all the time, and it's
Ridiculous.
only getting worse. So
Yeah.
it's just like there's like logistic things, but it's interesting how the church has stayed in like the 50s.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the Proverbs 31 woman worked.
Yeah.
Like literally, she's like like Lydia with the purple cloth. It's like
started a church
yeah.
that was like encouraged and praised.
Yes. Yeah.
There are a lot of other women that are at least like referenced in the New Testament that were like, we thank them for like the supporting the ministry with their own means. And you're like, okay, so we don't know what they did, but they had means. So they were doing something to like be able to support the church and ministry. And it was encouraged. It wasn't like, so tell those women to like get back in the kitchen. It was like, and this is awesome that they do this. Like, thank them as our sisters in Christ.
And which is crazy how simple this just boils down to. They're like women in the Bible working, or when outside of the Bible, like nowadays working, like we're doing it for God. Like the majority of the time.
I know we should know more references. But
I talk about this every episode.
But the verse about like whatever you do, work at it with all your mind is for the Lord.
Yes. Whatever you do.
And so whether it's like a specific calling with your gift, or whether it's like this is a job to pay the bills, but the manner in which I approach it is going to be or can be a witness to those around me.
I love that.
Whether you're married or single, I'd probably even encourage singleness. He was like, just be single. Like if you really can't help yourselves, I guess get married. Like be single.
I guess.
Basically, you're like, you
that was the original Hebrew. I guess.
If you really have to, if you can't control your like fleshly desires, then go for it.
No, but it's so true. Like there's more, because I forgot if this is like an actual verse or just a conversation from verses that I've had, but like there's more like ability to serve directly God when you are single than when you're married. Is that what it is referring to? Do you know about that?
I don't know about that. That sounds more like something that people have just kind of arrived at. Probably, like especially if you like have a call to be a missionary, like being a missionary is always hard. But it's easier if you're going on your own versus like, all right, now we're all gonna go, like pack it up, and because then if you're married, like you both should have that calling.
Yes.
And if one of you does and one of you doesn't, like I don't know what you do with that.
Right.
But if you have a call to be a missionary, unless you find somebody else who's like, oh, I also have that same call. Like maybe that's what you're supposed to do on your own. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. And I appreciate that perspective. A lot, because then there's like the flip side of like, I've had a lot of conversations with people who think that women's worth is in marriage based off of like what they've pulled from the Bible or what they've experienced or whatever. And so then like on the flip side, when other people have the opinions of like, no, it's like you're able to serve God more in your singleness, it's just like those are two extremes. Like it's good to not be too on one side and like come to in the middle and be like, no, everyone has a different path, but like if we're all serving the Lord, it's always going to lead to him. Like, and so if we're married or single, like you can serve the Lord to your fullest capacity. And I think that's really cool. Or if you're a man or a woman, you can serve the Lord to your fullest capacity.
No, it's making me think of, I had a couple of friends from college who came out to visit at one point, like right after I got married, and they weren't married, and they were like in a very much like man-hating phase. And they're like, well, what's even the point of like getting married, or like why would you do that when we can? I think partially because they're like, we can serve God on our own, and we like have our own callings. It's like totally valid. Like maybe that's your job, but I think like if you find somebody that you think you can serve God better with together than apart, then that is a good sign. But it's also like, okay, so then maybe I am meant to be married to this person if like together we can do more than what I'm doing on my own. But I hate the like women exist to be married and have babies, although I'm doing it and I love it. I'm like, but that's not everybody's calling.
Exactly.
And I think that's where like tradition and history comes in and like warps what was intended, which I think they've done with submission and that kind of thing, because like we talked about over the phone, that since men are physically across the board like more dominant or strong, which I also hated for a long time once puberty started, because I was like the tallest and the fastest, and all the boys like passed me. And I was like, I don't care for this at all.
This is
like,
not.
don't accept it. And I was like, okay, fine, it's true.
Okay, fine.
But like that's the way that like throughout all history, men have been able to like control and manipulate and dominate. Like, but that's not what God intended.
Right.
But they took verses like submit to your husbands, and they're like, see, we get to tell you what to do. Like, nope.
It's like that's
not
where
what
your
he was
mind
trying to
comes
say.
in. It's like,
yeah,
no, but that's so true. Like I was talking with my dad about this. Like that's probably like how it's become so warped, is because men in general, there's a lot of men that are like, you know, not like the strongest or whatever, but like in general, men are stronger than women. And because of that, I feel like it came down to it. That's what humans go to. It's just like, I can like beat you up right now.
Yeah,
and it's just
physical
like
strength.
Yes. And so it's just like, which is like a scary thought, like when you really pick it down, but that's also like a really warped man. So it's like, don't stay in contact with those kind of men. But it's just like advice. But so I feel like that's like how it's become so warped, like even from the very beginning.
Because of that, like women like had to have a husband so that they had security, or they're like have like a man in their life that would be like their protector. In the Bible, like kinsmen redeemers would take care of women if their husband died or whatever. And then throughout history, like when women weren't allowed to work, they're like, well, we gotta get married, or like we're gonna be living on the streets. And so I think now that that's not necessarily, it's not the case. Like women can work, and that's we've accepted that, which is smart.
Just smart.
People are like, well, like this is radical, and you're like, no, it's just because we were stupid for a long time. Like that doesn't mean that because things have changed that it's wrong. It's like it should have been this way all along, and we finally arrived. So let's get on board. And then just like all the skill sets that women bring to the table. That are different. We definitely, I can like guarantee we would have had less wars if women were in charge, because that's something we talked about. But like, are men physically stronger across the board? Sure, but like emotional strength or even emotional thinking and decision making is often like downplayed. Like, oh, like women are emotional, dramatic, and hysterical, and you're like, are we more in tune with our emotions? Probably. Is that a bad thing? No, it's not.
It's
and it means
great.
that like maybe we make decisions based on emotion more than men do, but men make decisions based on ego more than women do.
It's very
and that
true.
has led to all kinds of situations.
No, that's very true. And I didn't even think about that in the context of like wars and stuff like that. Like that never crossed my mind.
All the time. We're in so much a better place.
Like how many wars I personally have stopped.
Right.
No, but like that's so true. And it's interesting too, because God's an emotional God. And like when he made Adam in his image, like, okay, so there was this one speaker, I think I was reading one of his books. I forgot who he was, but he said something that I'm about to repeat.
He's a man, so we don't care. No, I'm just kidding.
Moving on. No, I was kidding. Exactly, no. But he was saying that like he believes when God made Adam, he thinks that the lion and the lamb part of God were both in Adam at that point. But then he made Eve and then brought the lamb part out of Adam.
Interesting.
Which I thought was interesting. But then when I think of it, when God made Adam, he said it wasn't good. And so I wonder if he made just the lion part.
Like, no, we need to add a little bit more
in here. We need to add a little lamb in here.
Yeah.
I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
That's interesting. Well, I like what you said about God being an emotional God, because he is. Like, he's perfect and he's holy, but he's emotional. Like, things make him angry, things make him sad. And if we're made in his image, like, he's imbued us with those abilities to feel as well. Like, it's good that we can feel compassion. And good that we can show mercy and forgiveness and
Those
love.
Are qualities of God.
Those are qualities of God.
That's the thing. Because, like, not to go you off.
No, go for it.
I was just thinking, I was like, love is one of the biggest emotions that come to mind whenever I think of somebody being emotional. It's like you think, well, oftentimes emotional is put in a I was about to say sad term, but in a like negative way. But love is one of the biggest emotions, and like literally Jesus says, love one another all of the freaking time.
All the time. God is love.
God is
love each other.
He's love.
Love me. Like
yeah. And so it's interesting how like with that aspect of like I totally spilled milk all over this that aspect of like being the emotional side, it's like we're very much needed in that sense then. If men are lacking in that, like And it's also interesting. Like, part of me feels weird saying like men because it's just like it like encompasses
I
all
know,
of
it's a
them.
generalization.
But it's true.
What are we kidding? No.
It's not true. It's just like it's one of those things that, like, yeah, in general, these are the things that happen. And so but yeah, it's very true. God is an emotional God, and it's really cool that we get to be that part with him.
Yeah.
Like, I love that, like, really diving into that aspect of it.
And like whether we're married or not, like men and women complement each other and are meant to, because he's given us different strengths as like men and women, as individuals within the group of women. Like, not all women are the same, not all men are the same. We all bring different things to the table, but
that's true too. Yeah, like even within just women or just men, like everybody brings different things to the table.
Yeah, but it all comes back to what did God intend, and how did he want us to interact with each other.
And also how he interacted with us. Like in the New Testament, how Jesus approached women was a big statement. Like, that was huge too. Like, women were the first to see him when he rose from the dead. And like, I mean, you made a couple really good points about that. Like, do you want to like talk about that?
Well, because we were talking about because women like were followers of Jesus. I think you brought up the woman who like poured oil on Jesus' feet, and his disciples like lost their minds.
Oh yeah.
And part of it was they were like, think of all like the money we could get from that. And you're like, that's
like,
material.
That's not the point.
She's showing love and care. That's what Jesus cares about more. But like women seen him first from the tomb, and they went there because they cared about him and they loved him. And so they wanted to honor him and in his death. But he chose to let them see him first.
Yes. Yeah. Which is so cool.
Women were like judges in the Bible. Women started churches in the New Testament. Women were supporters of the church in the New Testament. Even the fact that God chose to have Jesus be born of a woman, and then all the women in Jesus' line who were like
mentioned in the first place.
Yeah, like Rahab the prostitute and Ruth Moabitess and Bathsheba, who was assaulted by David, and then Mary, who was a virgin who gave birth. And like, if God didn't think anything of women, like he would not have chosen like such important roles, but he wouldn't have chosen like such a spectrum of women to like be a part of that.
That's so true. And it's like, it's really cool because like in any genealogy, like women are rarely mentioned, but in Jesus' one, like you just said, they're mentioned. And not only are they mentioned, but I love like your points of like the kind of women they were, especially through the world's eyes. But then it's just like really cool to see like God didn't see them that way. Like, God didn't see them that way at all. And like he wanted and loved them so much to be in like his literal family. Like, that's amazing. I love that.
And just his whole, you can have a whole podcast about Jesus' line and all the stuff that means. But like, God can love and redeem anybody,
absolutely,
no matter what the world thinks of them. So we need to relate it to our topic at hand. Like, even though the world has treated women badly for much of history and still today, like that's not what God intended, and that's not how God views us. And just because it's the way that it was or is does not mean that that's what we should accept.
Right.
If it's not what's true and what's right and what was intended.
I love that too, because like that's like, I think a lot of times we come to despair when we do accept what the world like says, and because like whenever we turn any degree away from what God says, then it's like that's where sin starts. That's where despair happens. That's where like we lose hope. And so like the world really warps everything. But like that's not what God said. Like none of like the things that we are worried about are what God says about us. Like, which is really amazing to think about. Kind of going back to the beginning, what we were talking about, and going back to the beginning, as in like of the world. I'm just thinking in the context of like, God created the world and then it got warped. But then I'm thinking of, okay, the first sin. I feel like we should touch on that a little bit because there's a lot there. So Eve was the one who bit the apple first.
So the fruit. We don't know it was an apple.
That's true.
The fruit, ambiguous.
The fruit. But that's a huge topic with like Eve like a lot of people say like, okay, Eve was the first one to sin and she was a woman, so all the women after
Women are
her, blah, 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 blah,
sinful. You gotta
and so
atone for it.
literally like so
Mhm.
careful around emotional women. But it's interesting because God, when he made Adam, he was saying that he put Adam in charge over all the animals and dominion over all the situations. The serpent is an animal. So how come the serpent was able to go outside of Adam's dominion and like trick Eve into eating the fruit? Because not only was like did that happen, it was very interesting how like I was talking to my dad about this. Like he was the one that was like mentioned this. I was like, that's very interesting because if Adam had dominion over all the animals, he had to have allowed something to happen in order for him to like, you know, if it was a power thing, I don't know, like we don't know. But I also think it's interesting because like women were the first ones who were lied to, and so that's very crazy too. Like yes, Eve gave in, if that's how you want to put it, and that yes, she was the first one to do what God said not to do, but she was the first one that lied to. Like Adam wasn't lied to, and also Adam was right next to her.
It was literally like, it says that she took the fruit and ate it and then gave it to her husband who was with her. And you're like, hold up. So you're both like, even though he's not talking to the snake, like all three of them are in this conversation.
Yes.
And like watching something bad happen and not doing anything about it is also like part of
that's kind
doing
of
it.
crazy.
You know, so like she bit it, but like they were both sinning, and that's why they both felt guilty and shame afterwards and hid from God, which is ridiculous. Yeah, he can see you. It's like a little kid who like covers their eyes. Like, you can't see me. Like, no, we can.
It's like, no, actually he can.
Well, and then everything that came after that, I think we like talked about the curse, because that's another part that you're like, so men's physical labor is harder, and then like women have to give birth, and that's going to be harder, and they're going to want their husband, but he's going to rule over them. And I read something neat about that because that like women shall desire their husbands, but they shall rule over them.
Yes.
And it was this pastor who was talking about it, and he was like, that was not a design, that was not a command, it was a statement of how things were.
Yes.
So it's not like, so in Genesis 3, God changed his mind and then was like, man should be in charge. It's like, no, like that was a curse.
Yeah.
And it was not like God ordained it, saying like, and now this is how I want things to be.
Yeah.
This is how I intended things to be.
Oh my gosh.
Like, no, this is your punishment.
Yeah.
And
this is like the repercussions of the actions that were made. So that's actually really, I love that point because a lot of times like women's problems revolve around men. And a lot of times
see my whole life. No.
Example given. But a lot of times it's crazy too because like we like, especially in my early teenage years, I was very boy crazy. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, I had a crush on this guy. He either moved away or like whatever. Then I had a crush on this guy. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just like, just part of being, you know, a teenager or whatever. But it was one of those things. It's just like, why is that so ingrained in us? Like, you know what I mean? And so like, even now as a 23-year-old, I have drama in my life. I don't think I'll ever grow out of drama. I think it's going to follow me for the rest of my days. But like, it's one of those things where it's just like, no, this is kind of like from the beginning of time that was a thing. It wasn't like, and not that like having a crush is sinful or anything like that, like it can be cute or whatever, but it's just like the fact that oftentimes women have like the desire for a man to like them or the desire for a man to just like, you know, be with or whatever is so like powerful from the start. Like not powerful in a good way, just like the force of it is like very present.
Well, it can like force you to, not force you, but it can make you make changes about yourself, or who you are, to please a man instead of like pleasing God. Or
literally.
Have I fallen into that? Yes, I have.
It's so true. And it's just like, it's so interesting, but it's almost like it's comforting though, in a sense that like it's not just me. Like that was Eve's first problem that she had to deal with. And Seraphine also made a really good I was about to say conclusion, but that's not what I mean. Like she had a really good imagery or whatever from scripture in Genesis as well, is that like one of the first things that she was also worried about was like, one of the things that was first put on her mind when after the sin happened was that she was worried about what her body looked like. And I thought that was crazy.
Next podcast, we'll be talking about body image issues.
Like,
The other curse of women.
Yeah, so
That's so
true.
interesting.
Yeah, and I never thought about that until she mentioned it.
Yeah.
And I thought that was like really insightful and really like present in this age and time as a woman, and like how that has affected everything in the world.
But again, like that's not what God wanted. Like,
Exactly.
was that a result of sin? Yes. But and I think this pastor was pointing out, he's like, a lot of people like go from Genesis 3 and we're like, all right, so this is how the world is and this is how God's structured. You're like, no, like, go back just 2 more chapters.
Yeah.
So like the first one, like, this is what God wanted.
Yes.
He wanted man and woman to be equal and love each other and to be in open communication with him.
Yes.
Because that changed too.
Yeah.
Men and women, that like they were no longer walking in the garden.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And we had to have the whole Old Testament
and
then the New Testament for the curtain to be torn and given the Holy Spirit.
Yes. Literally.
Yeah.
And it's crazy that it's just like, even then, like God made the garden for us to reside in, but then I didn't even think about that. Like they couldn't even reside there anymore.
No, they
like, yeah, and that's crazy to think about. But I just think it's just so beautiful and amazing how much all of these things are not what God intended, and like really looking at ourselves and others through the lens of Scripture, but also the lens of just God's eyes is so powerful. And like the amount of times we have to remind ourselves to do that is so many times. But it's so important too, because like, and also like just talk. Like I love these kind of conversations too, because then like I get like all pumped, like like, I mean, for lack of better words, God was a feminist. Like,
right? God, Paul, Jesus,
yeah, all that good stuff. Yeah. But in the sense of like he valued us, like he values us presently, like he doesn't go with the world and like the warped views of it. And also like it's also important for me to remind myself too, like not every man out there is like that. You know what I mean? Like that. Like there's so many men that I have surrounded myself with, either in the church or in like whatever, like different contexts, communities, that are like godly men. And it's like so important to remind myself, is like, okay, let's get to it. It's like not everybody's like this, and I think that's, I don't know, I think that's important too.
Yeah,
just remember
it exists. Don't settle for less.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, this is women were cursed, men were cursed, and so they've got their stuff to figure out and the hardships and stuff. And so that's where I think sometimes feminists like, well, men have just like had it easy, and so we should now like be over them. I'm like, no, like that's also not what God wanted.
It's going on the other side, yeah.
And like swinging the pendulum the other way doesn't make it right.
Yes.
You know, like it's not going to fix what's in the past. God can redeem everything.
Yes.
We can't. And when we try, we make it worse.
That is a really good way of putting that. It's like God is the one who redeems things. Yeah. We are not the one who redeems things.
Yeah.
So hi. So what happened was I forgot to, get rid of some storage on my phone. And then when we turned the camera around after we filmed the podcast episode, it was like, oh, ran out of storage. We can't film anymore. And we were like, so we realized that it did get an hour of it, which was good. But we just wanted to wrap it up here after church Sunday. So we left off talking about how it was like swinging on the other side of like how, women can go too far this way in the sense of like women are better than men, and that's not true.
Yeah.
So do you remember other thoughts you had after that?
Brief, maybe. We'll try and
it's like 2 days ago.
Walk back. Yeah. But basically that just God's original design and intent was for men and women to be equal. And since women historically have been treated so poorly, that the pendulum has swung the other way sometimes to the other extreme where, well, women are better than men. So now we have to like, in order to make up for what happened in the past, we now have to like trample on men. But that's also not what God intended. And it's good and right to have mercy and compassion and acknowledge that there were wrongdoings in the past, but going to the other end of the spectrum doesn't do anything to rectify the mistakes of the past.
It just creates more.
It creates more oppression than for people now, instead of looking at situations now where there is injustice or oppression or lack of compassion, saying, okay, well, what can we do about these situations right now? And how can we live out God's intended design now in our relationships, whether it's married, whether it's friendships, whether it's in the church or out of the church? How can we live out God's intended design. And there's some points in the sermon that made me think about our topic as well. It's just like,
Let's go.
there's injustice in the world and throughout history, but that's just because we're living in what is doesn't mean that we should accept it. But to keep looking back at the Bible and God's design for humans and his desire for us.
Yeah.
It's like we can still fight for that now.
Yes. Absolutely.
In whatever capacity. But
absolutely. And I loved too, also in the sermon, when Chip mentioned the hymn, "This is my Father's world." Like, I loved just the words of that with like, this is my Father's world. Like, this is not our world. And so like, along with having our, you know, free will and fighting for those things that are good and meant to be fought for, we can just like rest on the knowledge that like, no, this is like at the end of everything. And even now we can just remember that like, in all these hardships, this is our Father's world. And the way he intended, like we said in the episode, the way he intended things to be is how it will. Somebody just popped up. That's really funny.
That's my mom.
Hi, Laura. The way he intended things to be is how they are going to be in the end. Yeah. And we can strive and live like that now, even if we have the others around us who aren't living like that. We can live like that now and walking in that truth of, you know, where our place is and where our place should be if others don't think that way or whatever that is. So just a message of hope, I think.
A message of hope. And I think we didn't talk about this when we got cut off, but we talked about it on the phone when we were talking about this episode about how we like to make things overly complicated.
It's so true.
But God at his core is love.
Yes.
And Jesus's message above all was love. And when asked about the greatest commandments, love the Lord your God and love your neighbor. Yeah. And if we're really loving each other with Christ-like love, men towards women and women towards men, then a lot of things are gonna be rectified.
Yes. A lot of problems would be dissipated. A lot of problems wouldn't even come up in the first place. Like,
But we don't have all the answers, and there's still a lot of things that I don't know quite what to do with. But just continuing to wrestle with those and struggle through them and talk about them and dive deeper into what God's word actually says instead of what history says or what people say.
I love that too, like not stopping here, like even if we don't know where to go, like don't stop like searching for these things and don't stop learning, because there's a lot of things that I've learned just by talking with Lydia in our conversations about like how like God views us. And like, I mean, there's like, as a Christian for my whole life, there's things that I hear all the time, and so it sounds like a broken record, but sometimes it's like I rerehear them and I'm like, whoa, I need to
stop
hear
and
that.
think.
Yeah, exactly. So keep stopping and thinking, but also keep going. But my arm is getting excessively tired, so I'm gonna put the phone down. But we wanted to pick it up where we left off, because we did get cut off, but the majority got there, so that was good. But God is good, and good things are happening. Thank you so much for
thanks for coming on.
talking to me twice.
Anytime.
And I'll see you guys next week.